Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to episode number 25 of the Ohio Sports Radio Show. This player, Ian, was drafted in the second round of the 1986 NBA draft. He was selected by my Dallas Mavericks, but was then traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers. He is a point guard standing at 6'0" tall. He was drafted out of the University of Georgia Tech. He is a point guard. He wore number 25. Who is this player?
Is that my boy Mark Price?
It is Mr. Mark Price. I also could have went with Barry Bonds, but I felt like that was, kind of an easy one to figure out. He's probably the most famous player to wear number 25, but it is Mark Price of our Cleveland Cavaliers. So with that, this is episode 25, the Mark Price episode. Thank you guys for joining us and welcome back. It's been quite a while for us, but we're finally out of the baseball doldrum and we're back ready to talk some Ohio sports with you. As always, I'm Jared. He's Ian. Ian, how you doing, man?
Living the dream, brother. How we doing today?
Doing pretty good. And for those of you who may be new to our show, we start each episode off with our best and worst of this past week. It has been a little bit for us in between episodes. So, over the past couple weeks, Ian, what is your best and worst?
I'm going to go with fairly recent. Scooter Gennett just continues to be stellar for the Cincinnati Reds. On Saturday night, he hit his third grand slam of the season. Not of his career, just of this season. What a find by this new front office that the Reds have in place. They claimed him off of Milwaukee's waivers in the offseason. The Brewers had a log jam of infielders, and apparently Gennett was the odd man out. I'll take it. He's hitting .291 on the season, 25 bombs, and he's driven in 75 runs. Hell of a find. That's just absurd. Great job for Scooter Gennett in that front office. Transitioning to my worst of the week, good Lord. The play-action pass called by Blake Bortles against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week in preseason. He hiked the ball. He faked the handoff to a receiver that wasn't in the backfield. I've never seen that with a play-action pass. And he turned around and he threw it 11 yards short of anybody that was wearing a Jacksonville Jaguars uniform. So Blake Bortles just continues to be puzzling for anybody that watches football. You got to do something, brother. Chad Henne stealing your job. But that's my best and worst of the week.
It's kind of weird, though, for Jacksonville, too. I mean, Bortles had a season where he threw 35 touchdown passes. You think you have your future franchise quarterback, and he has just gone backwards so fast. He's surrounded with weapons. They drafted Leonard Fournette. They're going to run the ball a lot. He's got some good wide receivers there. They got a pretty decent defense, good enough to where they could probably contend for the AFC South. But he has just looked so bad. It may be time for a change of scenery for Blake Bortles in Jacksonville. But my best and worst, I'll give you my best first. So for those of you who don't know, I am married. My wife and I, we found out literally the day after our wedding that we are pregnant with, or my wife is pregnant with our first child. We found out the other day that it is actually going to be a boy. So we're expecting our first child, baby boy, in January. It should be awesome. I can't wait. Very excited. My wife is excited, and we just simply cannot wait. My worst of the week is the atrocious performance by the Cincinnati Bengals on Saturday against the Kansas City Chiefs. Their defense was terrible. First team, second team, third team, doesn't matter. The defense was absolutely terrible. They couldn't tackle anybody. They looked awful. They made Patrick Mahomes look like Steve Young pretty much the whole game. So it was pretty awful. Terrible performance by the Bengals. I mean, they were bad on defense. It was very bad. And then to add insult to injury, literally, Sean Williams, starting safety, goes down with a gruesome arm injury. I don't know if you saw it, Ian, but first glance, to me, it looked like a compound fracture. It was pretty gross. Not good. The Bengals are very thin at safety right now. So, just an overall terrible performance by the Bengals. It is preseason, not really time to overreact yet, but it was pretty bad. So that's our best and worst. Speaking of football, let's do a segment that we call On the Radar. Now, On the Radar, for those of you who don't know, is a segment where we hone in on a player that is literally on our radar, somebody that we are really, really excited about in any sport. So, Ian, I'll let you do On the Radar first.
I'm going to stick with the football theme. I'm going to go after watching my Browns in their first preseason game against the Saints. Probably the easy way out could be going with Myles Garrett, who was an absolute stud in that game, but I think we all realized that Myles Garrett was the real deal. I'm going to throw it at DeShone Kizer. 11 of 18, 184 yards, including the game-winning 52-yard bomb just under the 2-minute warning while the Browns were staring at a 4th and 3. It reminded me of the year Ohio State won the national championship against Miami, the game against Purdue where Craig Krenzel was looking at a 4th and 2 and threw a 50-yard bomb to Michael Jenkins. Kizer looked great, and he was promoted to the first team to take some first-team snaps this week in practice. If anybody who follows me on Twitter or knows my story, I wrote about it on the blog. I was not a fan of drafting Kizer. I wanted nothing to do with him. He has proven me wrong. I'm eating crow, and I'm perfectly fine with it. I think Kizer was a great pick by this front office. But DeShone Kizer, have yourself a first preseason game. Come in with a bang. You're on the radar, sir.
I'll stick with football if you're going to stick with football, and my on-the-radar player is Josh Malone, wide receiver for the Bengals. He was a 4th-round pick out of the University of Tennessee. Kid was an absolute speedster in college. I think he's going to fit in nice with this offense. Now, there's some questions on who will and won't make this roster. I think the Bengals at skill position are very loaded. Tyler Boyd's back. He's looking good in preseason. Tyler Eifert, if he can stay healthy. Obviously, A.J. Green. You pair that with John Ross, their first-round selection. You got Malone, Cody Core. There's Alex Erickson. He's looked really good. So who's going to make this team? I think Malone does make the team, just what he's done in preseason. He's looked very good. He's looked very strong. He's doing a good job of just basically boxing out defenders and making big catches. He had a couple big catches against the Chiefs. I like the kid's game a lot, and I think he's a good compliment to the Bengals. So I hope he does make the roster. And Josh Malone, sir, you are officially on the radar. So speaking of football, it's the best time of year. Once preseason's over, at least, that football is back, and we don't just have baseball. Football is – there's nothing better than NFL Sunday, literally watching football from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep. So it's a good time to be a sports fan, pretty good time to be an Ohio sports fan. We got the Buckeyes coming back. We got the NFL back around, and, preseason football hasn't been in full swing. So let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals, my beloved team. They lost their second preseason game on Saturday to the Kansas City Chiefs. Pretty bad performance. They ended up losing 30-12. Andy Dalton's stat line, pretty mediocre. 7 of 13 for 98 yards. He didn't do anything wrong. He just didn't put any points on the board for him. So it's something you want to see going into the season, especially last year, how the Bengals constantly settled for field goals instead of scoring touchdowns. It's something that we need to work on. It's something that needs to be better going into this season. Dalton had no touchdowns, no interceptions, though. A.J. McCarron had an okay night, 8 of 15 for 93 yards and an interception. The interception really wasn't his fault. Hit off the receiver's hands and then was picked off. The classic pick. Okay night for our quarterbacks. Really, really different game in terms of running the football. In their first preseason game against Tampa Bay, they had a good running game going, good mix of passes out of the backfield. They couldn't really get anything going. I don't know if that was on the line. I've only watched the game once, haven't gone back and watched any tape. I did record it. The line did okay. They didn't do anything special. They did let Dalton get touched a few times, which is something you don't want. But they had no run game. They couldn't get anything going. So, that was pretty bad. They dropped a lot of passes. A.J. Green dropped a pass, which he would catch 9 out of 10 times, hit him right in the hands. It was thrown a tad bit behind him and high, but still, you got to catch it. Hit him right in the hands. And if he catches that, he's walking into the end zone for 6. So things like that, this is preseason. This is why you play it. You got to get your rhythm and timing right. But stupid mistakes like that pretty much cost them the game outside of their defense. Their defense was just absolutely terrible. They couldn't tackle, like I mentioned in my worst of the week. They couldn't tackle. There was literally plays where they would hit a guy. They thought the play was over to get up and celebrate, and the guy's running down the field for 5 more yards. It was terrible. It was an awful performance from the first, second, and third stringers. They gave up a score to Kansas City on the Chiefs' first 5 possessions, 4 of which were touchdowns. That's unacceptable. You will not win games like that in the NFL. So just a bad performance. Bright note for the defense, linebacker Nick Vigil looked great. I love that kid's game. He's got a very high motor. That's the term we always use for a white player in any sport. But he does have a high motor, and he's very skilled. He had 8 tackles, almost had an interception, so I thought he looked really good. Like I mentioned in my worst of the week, Sean Williams' injury is very bad. Best case scenario for him, like I said, it looked like he was going to miss, or it looked like a compound fracture, which would, in retrospect, end his season. Jeff Hobson, Bengals beat writer, tweeted after the game that initial reports looked bad, but it doesn't seem to be as bad as they expected. Now, I don't know if he's saying that just to ease fans' minds, but it looked very bad in real time. They didn't bring out an air cast, which is usually a good sign. If they bring out an air cast, it's a broken bone. So looks like it could be 4 to 6 weeks at best of missed time. That would put him back late September, early October. So it's going to be a stretch without him because they're down to George Iloka, Darren Smith, and Clayton Fajetolum. So tough night for the Bengals. You want to see things get better. The good news, bright side, is they didn't miss a field goal, and that was a problem all last year for them. So looks like we got a kicking battle. So we'll see who makes that team. I don't know. They'll probably lean toward Randy Bullock and cut the kid that they drafted. So I have no clue. But overall, not a good night for the Bengals. Let's move on. Let's talk a little Cleveland Browns. So the Browns ended up winning their first preseason game. They beat the Saints 20-14. It was in all accounts a pretty good game. I fell asleep at halftime, but Ian told me it was a good one. So their next game will be on Monday Night Football against the New York Football Giants. So Ian, as a Browns fan, what are you looking for from your team in this game?
One thing that's always been an Achilles heel for Cleveland, they got to commit fewer penalties. In that first game against the Saints, they committed 12 penalties for 72 yards. That's something that Hugh Jackson, since he's been here in Cleveland, that's one of the first things he always brings up in his post-game conference. But something that was actually refreshing in that Saints game that they never do, they won the time of possession battle, which says a lot for their game management. That's huge. If they can continue to do that and own the time of possession moving forward, we might be on to building something in Cleveland. A lot of their games, I'd say probably 95% of their games over the last 3 seasons, you go look at that box score, they lose the time of possession battle every time. When you've got the ball, you own the game. And it says a lot that they're running the ball. They've got Isaiah Crowell. They're feeding the crow with that. Duke Johnson is so versatile. I think they're going to end up using him a lot more as a receiver this year, out of the backfield, and that fits him perfectly. He did a lot of that at Miami when they didn't rely on him to run the ball, but Duke is somebody that is very versatile in what he can bring to the team. Out of that first game, we saw Myles Garrett make his debut and huge impact. First play of the game, I tweeted about it. They were double teaming him on the first play. The second play of the game, they triple teamed him. The guy never looked out of breath. I would love to have his stamina, his endurance, his physical build. When the ball was away from him, when it went to the other side of the field, the camera caught him in the play. I mean, when the ball is not on the side of his field, he gets to the other side of the field to get into that play. He's a freak. He was owning the offensive line against New Orleans. I'm sorry. I would love to see him continue to do that in the New York Giants game on Monday night. Guys like Joe Schobert that we drafted last year out of Wisconsin, he had a great first game. I would love to see him continue that. Tank Carter, who's a big role player on that defense, I'd love to see him continue his hot start. Christian Kirksey, glad we got that dude re-signed. Him and Jamie Collins at linebacker, they're studs. Little shaky in the secondary. I think we'll get around to playing better as we get more snaps under our belt. But Jabril Peppers, one of the 3 first-round picks that the Browns had, he looked okay in that first game. Like to see him get some more playing time. I'm really, really hoping we get to see David Njoku play in the Giants game. big tight end they took out of Miami, the U, in the first round. Just another weapon for that offense. Like I mentioned on the radar, DeShone Kizer, I thought he looked fantastic, and I mean he was playing with the third team. He's probably going to get some first team snaps against the Giants. Osweiler looked okay. I'll give him credit. He didn't do anything bad. He didn't do anything outstanding, but I mean he managed the game well. Cody Kessler, I mean this kid never does anything huge, but he's accurate. So you know what you're going to get when Kessler's taking the snap. But I'm really excited, looking forward to a Monday night game against the Giants in the preseason, hoping they continue this momentum and get the job done.
Yeah, man. Should be fun. Monday Night Football is always fun, preseason or not. It's always fun. You get to hear John Gruden say literally everything good about your team and nothing bad. So It should be pretty good. Well, he did have some bad words to say about Blake Bortles, which is kind of out of character for old Gruden. But, yeah, man, it should be a good game. Best of luck to you and your Browns. Let's move on. Let's talk a little basketball. Let's talk some Cleveland Cavs basketball, some NBA. So it's been crazy. To put it simply, for the Cavs, this offseason has been unbelievable. It's been like a complete drama-filled mess for the Cavaliers. So for those of you who may have missed it, ESPN's NBA insider Chris Sheridan tweeted out last Wednesday that an NBA source has told him that, quote, this will be LeBron's final season in Cleveland. He is 100% leaving. Relationship with owners beyond repair, end quote. LeBron has since denied this report, like he should, but many people, including us, have speculated that LeBron would eventually move on from Cleveland, possibly to join, let's say, the Lakers. So, Ian, this is crazy. And to add on to that, the Kyrie Irving trade drama is still very much relevant. It's still very much alive in Cleveland. There's been many reports that, Kyrie and LeBron are no longer getting along, that Kyrie wanted to leave and be the man, quote, and so on and so forth. Well, recently, this past week, Fox Sports' Chris Broussard came out on Colin Cowherd's The Herd and said, quote, the final straw as to why Kyrie wanted out of Cleveland or wants out of Cleveland is because there was a deal that Cleveland had going into the draft. They had this deal done. This was reported by Cleveland's Scene magazine. No one has really picked it up, but I've talked to a few people who said it was true. The deal was Cleveland would send Kyrie Irving to Phoenix. Phoenix would then send Eric Bledsoe and the number 4 overall pick back to the Cavaliers. The Cavs would then send the number 4 overall pick to Indiana in exchange for Paul George. So the Cavs were going to get Bledsoe and Paul George for Kyrie Irving. That trade was done. It was going to happen. Dan Gilbert apparently approached LeBron and said, look, we've got this deal on the table. I'll do it if you commit long-term to stay in Cleveland. But LeBron would not commit. Broussard says you can read into that as much as you want if he wants to keep his options open or if he is actually leaving. But the fact is LeBron would not commit. So Dan Gilbert did not do the deal. Now, Kyrie apparently finds out about the deal. Whether it was from David Griffin, their ex-GM, telling him after he left, or however he found out. He doesn't know. But Kyrie found out about this deal. Kyrie assumed that there's no way the Cavaliers are doing this unless LeBron gives consent to it. That's why he got mad at LeBron. He thought LeBron was in on it. LeBron came out and said, look, I'm not trying to trade Kyrie Irving. He's great, but that's a heck of a deal. You're getting Bledsoe and Paul George. So if you do it, hey, that's a great deal. So Kyrie took that as LeBron wanted him out. And then a few days later, Kyrie puts in his trade request. Now, this is from Fox Sports' Chris Broussard. So, Ian, what are your takes on this? LeBron being, quoted as he's 100% leaving, the whole trade drama with Kyrie. I mean, it is an absolute mess in Cleveland right now.
It's a lot to digest, man. To start with, I think, I speak for a lot of Cavs fans when I say, we're grateful for what LeBron came back and did. His ultimate goal was to win a championship, to bring that championship trophy to Cleveland. He did that. I, as a fan and as a realistic fan, called it after he won that championship. I said, well, when that deal's up, he's gone again. You know, he has nothing left to prove to Cleveland. He's left us once. He'll do it again. There's still a lot of people that are not wanting to believe the fact that LeBron will leave. But, I mean, it's plain as day. And, of course, LeBron's going to be looking out for his own best interest, and he's going to come out and deny that initial report of, you know, it's a 100% done deal that he's not coming back. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm a Kyrie guy. I followed this guy at Duke, even though he only played 12 games at Duke. I loved Kyrie Irving. I don't really blame him for wanting to be the guy and wanting to be the guy somewhere other than Cleveland. He was the guy in Cleveland his rookie year that got him 20 games. He doesn't want to be the guy in Cleveland without LeBron. He doesn't want to stay there. He wants to go someplace that, you know, may attract a free agent or, you know, be able to draft somebody. Cleveland's draft is, you know, or Cleveland's future in the draft, you know, they've traded so many picks. They owe first-round picks in the future. They're not going to be able to draft anybody, you know, once this team starts to break apart. You know, when LeBron, you know, allegedly turned down that deal to the owner, Dan Gilbert, and said, you know, I can't commit to signing long-term, that pretty much told you right away. It confirmed, you know, LeBron's not going to stay here. You can read into whatever you want. You can say, you know, well, LeBron didn't want to be, you know, stranglehold or strangleheld or on that. He didn't want to be, you know, held for ransom on something, but on that. But LeBron is out for LeBron. And, you know, I don't fault the guy in that, but, you know, LeBron's not going to say anything that'll make him look bad. He's just going to leave when his contract's up. He's going to go start something somewhere else. He's going to build his own legacy at another place. Kyrie doesn't want to be left behind. To be honest with you, I'm kind of shocked that deal that was set up for draft night, I'm a little shocked that LeBron turned that down, you know, was kind of straying away from that because, you know, Bledsoe is one of LeBron's boys. Him and Bledsoe are really good friends. They work out together. He likes Bledsoe a lot. And then if you can add Paul George, I think that's a couple of guys that you can bring in and convince to sign, you know, long-term with LeBron. And, you know, but I mean, the East is a joke anyway. So that team would have ran through the East.
That team, I was going to say the same thing. I think that's a really good trade. I don't know why he would turn that down. I know Kyrie, at the time, they may have not been arguing or fighting. That's a really good return for the Cavs.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're taking on a lot of money, and it's a rental season pretty much because I still think Paul George wanted out. So I still think Paul George, you know, wanted out of Cleveland. Or would have wanted out of Cleveland after a year. But still, that's a really good rental season, and they definitely win the East, and that team could possibly compete with the Warriors. It's a good return for actually all the teams involved because you're getting a better point guard in Kyrie Irving. If you're Phoenix, you're giving up a pick for a proven player that you're going to combine with Devin Booker and younger players that they already got a good core group of young players. For Indiana, Paul George wants out. He's told you, and you're getting the number 4 pick. So really good return. And that kind of boggles my mind that it was turned down by LeBron and the Cavs. That's a really weird thing. If this is in fact true, just weird to me that they would turn that down.
Yeah, it blows me away. And like you mentioned about that team that would have been, you know, set up in Phoenix, I think that would have been a neat place to watch Kyrie go to. Like you said, you pair him up with Devin Booker, who, you know, I don't know if this is me going out on a limb here by saying it too soon, but I think Devin Booker is the next big star in the NBA.
Oh, yeah, definitely. He's a stud. Kid didn't even start at Kentucky, by the way. But yeah, he's a stud.
It blows me away, man, that he didn't start at Kentucky, but he showed what he's capable of this past season in Phoenix. And then, like you mentioned, you know, Phoenix has a lot of young guys. They got a good young core. They're just waiting for that, you know, superstar player. And I think if Kyrie would have went there, I think that would have been a great start for Phoenix. You know, they are going to have to battle in the West, but you got guys like Marquise Chris and Alan Williams.
Josh Jackson.
Josh Jackson now with the draft.
Yep.
It would have been a fun little young team to watch play. Like you said, it would have been tough now that I think more of it after I initially said it. Paul George probably doesn't want to stay there in Cleveland. He probably still wants out. He wants out of the Midwest. He wants to go out west. I think ultimately that's what's going to end up happening. I think you're going to see I think you're going to see PG and LeBron end up joining with the Lakers. We've talked about that several times. I don't think PG is going to stay with the Thunder. But yeah, it's a ginormous mess in Cleveland. They can't ever have nice things. It's a crapshoot. It really is.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people say, well, if LeBron's going to leave, we should try to trade him to the Lakers. Now, think about that for a minute. If LeBron plans on going to the Lakers, if in fact that's what he wants to do, why would he want to tear apart the team that he's about to go to for a trade? LeBron has a no trade clause, so all he has to do is wait until free agency. Then he can go join the Lakers. And they don't have to give up anything. He's joining a good young group in Julius Randle, Lonzo Ball. Reunites with Mozgov and those guys out there. Not to say that Mozgov's a great player, but still, it's a place where he can go. I don't know why LeBron would want to go to the West, to be honest with you. It's an unbelievably top-heavy conference. So I don't know. I know he's got a house out there. I can understand wanting to get out of Cleveland. I know he's a Cleveland guy. He really doesn't owe Cleveland anything. He can leave and do whatever the hell he wants, to be honest with you. He's still the best player on earth. It doesn't make sense to me to go join the West, to go to the West, though. I think he's set in Cleveland. If his goal is to, in fact, catch Michael Jordan and win championships, his best opportunity to do it would be out of the East.
Yeah, absolutely. If he would stay in Cleveland, or I would hate to say, join another team in the East, but if he stays in Cleveland, there's always the chance for injuries for a team. If the Warrior, pretty much if the NBA stays the way it is, you're going to have Cavs Warriors for the next 5 years.
Easily.
If the NBA stayed the way they are,
you may see a Boston slip in there every now and then, maybe
every now and then. But right now the table's set for that. If the Warriors come in banged up or something, or the Cavaliers just play out of their mind, LeBron has that chance to win more championships with Cleveland. But I like you said, LeBron's got the no trade clause. He's one of 3 players in the NBA that has that. Carmelo and your boy Dirk being the other 2. The full no trade clause. LeBron's already came out and said, look, I'm not going to accept any trade. He wants to own his own. He wants to be the planner of his destination, of where he goes next. But it puzzles me why he would want to go out west. But that's going to be a fun Lakers team. Lonzo Ball, LeBron, Brandon Ingram, Julius Randle. You got a guy like Kyle Kuzma, who's shown the world what he's made of in those summer leagues that the Lakers played in. And not to fact check you, but they did send Mozgov to the Nets for Brook Lopez, so they got a better big man in Brook Lopez there. So that team, if you add LeBron, that Lakers team could be dangerous. But like you said, there was a ton of competition in the West, but I still think even if LeBron joins the Lakers, the Warriors have such a stranglehold out there. They're built perfectly. They're a fine oiled machine. Something big would have to happen for the Warriors not to just completely run through that, even with all the competition.
Yeah, I want to apologize to all of our listeners. I need to fact check my Timothy Mozgov facts better. I'm not really good with my Mozgov facts, but yeah, it is a fun Lakers team, and that seems like where LeBron wants to go. And I've always said these things that come out, this story by Broussard could be 100% fake. We live in the world of clicks. We live in the world of where you have to get website clicks somehow. You have to get people talking. But sooner or later, something is going to be true. Usually, things like this have some kind of truth to them. So I don't know if this deal was actually out there. It's a really puzzling thing for me that they wouldn't take this deal, at least make a go at it for one more year, because I think that team has as good a shot as any to win a championship. But that's just me. So what happens if LeBron does leave? when Kyrie leaves. I don't think it's a matter of if. I think it's when. You're looking for someone basically that you can pair with Kevin Love, because Kevin Love, in retrospect, becomes the man in Cleveland.
Yeah, I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do moving forward with just Kevin Love. They're a franchise that have been backed into a corner by terrible contracts, and if they watch LeBron leave, they're not getting anything for him. He's exercised his no trade option, so you're not getting anything for LeBron. You're just getting his salary cap relief. If you trade Kyrie, well, when they trade Kyrie, you're going to get a return on Kyrie, probably not the return you want, but you're getting this salary cap relief, but who wants to go play in Cleveland? Nobody. Cleveland is not an attractive place to play without LeBron.
I was going to say, especially without LeBron, not a soul wants to go play there. Kevin Love isn't the draw that he once was. So I don't know, man. It's a really, really bad situation for the Cavs and their fans. And I don't know if you saw, but a bunch of Cavs fans have already started a "Please Stay LeBron" campaign, and they got T-shirts and everything out there. So it's a bad situation right now for the Cavs, and who knows? Maybe they can get a really good return for Kyrie, and it may entice LeBron to say a couple more years. Who knows? But it looks like he may be on his way out in Cleveland. But let's move on. Let's talk a little baseball now. I'll be honest, hand up, I have not paid attention to the Reds like I should. It's been a very busy time in my household with my wife being pregnant and everything, but I have not cared at all about the Reds, especially with football coming back. They're kind of on the back burner to me. Now, one thing I have cared about, however, is Mr. Joey Votto. Joey Votto is having himself an unbelievable season this year. And I feel like from what I see on Twitter and ESPN and whatnot, it's sort of being overlooked by many simply because the Reds are not a good team. They recently finished a series with the Cubs. Cubs manager Joe Maddon, I don't know if you saw this quote, Ian, was quoted as saying, quote, "He is an ungodly player at the plate." That's pretty high praise, especially from a manager like Joe Maddon. For those of you who don't know, Joey Votto is currently batting .316. He has a .447 on-base percentage and a .598 slugging percentage. He has 32 home runs, 100 walks, and only 64 strikeouts this season. Now, it may not be as flashy as what Giancarlo Stanton has done this year, which has been remarkable. But with that being said, Ian, do you think Votto is a worthy candidate of the NL MVP?
No question. He is the best hitter in the game of baseball today.
How many times have I said on this show, he is the Ted Williams of our generation? I've said that many times before, and ironically enough, he's chasing Ted Williams' record. So he has been unbelievable.
Absolutely, and I'll be the first to raise my hand that, I kind of sidestepped that. I was always in the camp that I believe that Miguel Cabrera, Manny Ramirez were the best hitters that we've seen in our generation, but Votto continues to age gracefully, and he's doing phenomenal. He's a student of the game. He continues to get better at the plate. He has made it very clear that he has no intention of leaving Cincinnati. He will not accept any type of trade that gets him out of there. He is, tried and true, a Red for life. He's phenomenal. I don't think it's absurd to think that he could win the MVP award. The only thing that he's got going against him right now is that he is on a bottom feeder team like the Reds. But you can throw that back. The Marlins are a bottom feeder team. What Stanton is doing is absolutely remarkable, and he's got Joey in RBIs and home runs. But Joey's hitting about 30 points higher than Giancarlo.
And Joey's not a power hitter like Stanton.
No, he's not.
He's not a power hitter at all.
And you've got, you can look at like the whole argument about giving the MVP award to a team to a player that plays on a team that doesn't make the playoffs. But if you look at, the stats across the league, there's really not much else out there. I guess my opinion, I do not like when they give the MVP award out to a pitcher. Pitching has their own award with the Cy Young Award. If Kershaw did not get hurt, I could maybe see with the season that Kershaw was having, them doubling up and say, hey, look, he's the NL MVP. He's going to win the Cy Young. Okay, but he got hurt. He's missing time. There's really not much else out there on teams that are competing that I think you could make a case for. Paul Goldschmidt, maybe, but the Diamondbacks are faltering. Goldschmidt is not in the RBI race with Votto and Stanton. He's not in the home runs. He is up there in average. He's hitting a few points higher than Votto. But, I mean, Votto's got him in home runs and RBIs. And if Votto's got him, Stanton certainly has him. You look at guys like, I think Justin Turner's leading the league in hitting. Justin Turner's not an MVP type of guy. He doesn't hit the home runs. He doesn't drive in the runs. I don't think it's absurd to talk about Joey winning the MVP award. His second MVP of his career it would be. But Joey just continues to get better. He's the best hitter in the game. And my God, I mean, it's fun to watch him. I don't care who you are. And like you said, Joe Maddon, for Joe Maddon to come out and say that, you know, I liked Joe Maddon when he was with the Rays. I thought he was a great manager. He's still a great manager. He comes over to the Cubs. Immediately when someone comes to the Cubs, I just kind of despise them. It's a thing. I'm sorry if anybody is a Cubs fan that's listening. I despise the Cubs. And I think when Joe Maddon came to the Cubs, he kind of took over that Joe Cool mentality of like, you know, I'm a Cub now. Fuck you. I you know, he's just a douche. But for him to come out and say that about Joey Votto, that's high praise from a spot that you wouldn't expect high praise. I mean, Votto just continues to be one of the best players in the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's so quiet, too. It's such a quiet performance from him. I mean, us as Reds fans, we see him every night, and you see what he does. I mean, I don't know if you saw something so simple as on Saturday against the Braves, they put a shift on him. He still got a double out of it.
Yeah.
The shift was unbelievable. He shouldn't have been able to get a hit out of that shift, and he still got a double out of it. I mean, he is a remarkable hitter. And it's just sad that it gets overlooked by the main media. I mean, I listen to Dan Patrick every day, and they're talking about possible candidates for the NL MVP, and his name's not even in the discussion for it. So it's just sad because what he's doing at the plate is truly unbelievable. He is absolutely. If you like baseball and you're just a baseball purist, which Ian, I know you really are. He is so fun to watch at the plate. I mean, he chokes up on. You just don't see that from guys anymore. Like everyone swings for the flashy hit. They want to hit home runs. It's just the way the game has gone. They want to make ESPN with bombs like Aaron Judge or Giancarlo Stanton. They want to hit home runs. They want to be that kind of guy. Votto chokes up like halfway up the bat.
He does, and it's funny that you bring up that shift with the Braves. And then that Cubs shift, when the Cubs put 4 guys in the outfield, Joey is just, he has fun out there. He's like, all right, go ahead and set up the way you want. I'm going to hit it where they ain't. And for the Cubs, the way they had that outfield set up, I mean, they moved Baez to the outfield. There was 4 athletic guys out there in the outfield. Joey still hit it around them. I mean, he is, if there was a word that was better than phenomenal, that's what Joey is. He is a once-in-a-lifetime talent. That he's a generational player. You've said it long, and you know you've said it for a long time, and you've repeated yourself. And you know we get to see it every night. You know, I don't see why this guy is not a legitimate MVP candidate. I don't care that the Reds suck. It's the fact that what he's doing right now, and the regularity, like the consistency that he's doing it. No one else is doing what Joey Votto's doing.
Yeah, and I think another noteworthy thing with Votto is I read a quote from Billy Hamilton, and I think I may have told you this, but for those who didn't see it, Billy said that he used to hate Joey Votto. And it wasn't that he hated his personality. He just couldn't approach him. And Billy Hamilton would have questions, you know, about like hitting, and he just felt like he could never approach Joey. He was scared of him. But then he said, he's like, I really like Joey a lot now because I can talk to him about hitting. He's given me advice on my game. And it seems like Joey, when he came into the league, he was kind of it was about himself. Like, hey, I'm here to be, I know I'm good. I know I'm the cornerstone of this franchise. You know, leave me alone. I'm going to do my thing. You guys do yours. You know, we'll win, whatever. I feel like now he's taking over a mentorship. Like he's taking these guys under his wing. Like, look, man, we can be good. I think he sees what they have in the pipeline. You got Nick Senzel, who's absolutely knocking the cover off the ball in minor leagues. You got a ton of, Hunter Green. You got tons of good players that they're building in their farm system. I think Joey sees what's coming down the pipeline. And if he can help Billy, especially Billy, if he can help Billy get on base more, no one can have that kind of discipline at the plate like Joey does. The guy's amazing. I mean, the guy, he doesn't swing at pitches outside the zone. You have to pitch to him. And you can't really teach that. That's just an unbelievable talent he has. But if he can help these younger guys learn to hit better, get in the batting cage, learn to, what pitch is coming. Like Pete Rose talked about how he used to know what pitch was coming. And a lot of guys, I feel like they're up there waiting on a fastball. Like when I get that fastball, though, I'm taking it yard. Pete Rose said, I knew. He would watch film on a pitcher, be like, all right, so he typically 90% of the time will throw 2 fastballs and go to his breaking ball. Pete Rose was waiting on a breaking ball. And I think those kind of hitters that are such students of the game, especially at the plate, Joey Votto is up there. And it's kind of blasphemous when you talk to older Reds fans that Joey Votto may be the best hitter this team's ever had in the history of the team. Well, no, Pete is. Well, Joey Votto has done some amazing things at the plate. And I think Pete Rose would tip his hat to Joey.
Absolutely. And one more thing to talk about as far as what you talked about with Billy. It shows Billy's batting average, I believe, is the highest it's ever been. Votto has worked with him, has given him tips. Billy's still not quite where we want to see him as far as getting on base. But as far as batting average goes, it's still higher. Another point, Jose Peraza. This guy is going to be a big part of the Reds' future. He was a guy that came over in the Todd Frazier 3-way trade. Peraza, and granted, Scooter Gennett's came over. We've seen less of Peraza, but then with Cozart's injuries, we see Peraza be plugged in at shortstop more. When Peraza came back to start playing for Cozart, Peraza started walking a lot. And that's something that I want to say the stat I saw was, in 50 games, Peraza had walked 5 times, which is absolutely stupid. And when Peraza came back and started playing for Cozart, he had been working with Joey. Joey had been working with him in the cage and everything, and on the field. Peraza walked like 11 times in a span of 7 games. I mean, that's proof right there. Joey is reaching out to these younger hitters, and he's teaching them how to be a student, how to research, how to study. There's nobody that knows hitting better in baseball right now than Joey Votto. And I completely agree with you. He sees what's in the pipeline, and I think he's becoming a little more vocal. He's becoming more of a leader. People can say what they want. Yeah, he seems like a quiet guy. But with Billy coming out and saying stuff like that, and then with the Peraza news, Joey's reaching out to these guys. He's being a mentor. You don't have to be loud and boisterous to be a leader. It's showing that what Joey's doing is helping other players.
I also feel like he's having more fun.
Exactly.
I feel like a lot of the time when we're not professional athletes, just as an observer, I felt like he was a robot for a long time. Like I'm here to play baseball. I'm here to hit balls. I'm here to get on base and play first base. I'm just here to do my job. And now you see him joking around with fans. He's interacting. Like, did you see him the other night get that foul ball and throw it? He just launched it into the upper deck.
Yeah, that was hilarious in Chicago. And the next night, he did it again. He threw it up onto the roof.
It's amazing. I mean, he is becoming such a troll. It's so awesome for me to sit back and watch Joey Votto, what he's become, because I think he's hilarious. Obviously, what he's done on the field for so long for the Reds has been great. And I think he knows, you said earlier, that he's not going anywhere. And, I mean, why would he? He's making $20+ million a year to play baseball. But he's the cornerstone of this franchise. I think the Reds have made it very clear that we're building around you. And it's just awesome to see. And there's so much young talent in this Reds farm system. They're years out still, but he sees what's coming. They have a lot of good young talent. And I think, especially with Billy, going back to that point, is if he can help Billy get on base, he knows what Billy's capable of. If Billy can increase his on-base percentage, no one will touch him in stolen bases. The kid is unbelievable. He's 90% of the time he's swiping second. So I think Joey sees how he can help these guys and make the team better, and not only himself. He's becoming a pretty good captain for this team, and it's very fun to watch. And I think he's definitely deserving of an NL MVP nod. And I think it's a crime if he's not even in the discussion. He probably won't end up winning it. It'll probably go to Stanton, but I think it's a crime not to include Joey Votto in that list. But let's move on. Let's move on to a topic or a segment that we call What's Good. What's Good is a segment where we just tell you something that we're really enjoying in our life. It doesn't have to be technically sports related, but it could be anything. Ian, what's good with you, brother?
Several years ago, I was listening to 96 Rock out of Cincinnati and on my way to work in the morning, and they asked a trivia question for concert tickets to go see Kings of Leon. I called in, gave them the correct answer for the trivia question. I ended up winning free tickets to go see Kings of Leon that summer at Riverbend. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of a meltdown with the lead singer. He entered rehab. The show was canceled. I was unable to go see him in concert. A couple weeks ago, I finally got to cross them off my concert bucket list. I saw him perform in Cincinnati at Riverbend. I went with Jared and his wife, Katie, and it was an incredible performance by them. They are just phenomenal live. I mean, they sound record quality when they play live. The venue kind of, I know how Jared feels about Riverbend. I'm not a huge Riverbend guy, but they just sound terrific live. And if you've never seen them live, do yourself a favor. Get out there, see them live. Jared's seen them a million times, and he can tell you and attest to it how great they are. But what's good for me, I finally got to cross Kings of Leon off my concert bucket list.
Yeah, man, that was a good show. A lot of fun. They're a great band. I've followed them for a long, long time, and it's fun to see where they've grown to. I miss them being in my back pocket band. Like, oh, have you ever heard of them? Nobody has, but man, it's awesome to see where they've gone, and we had a lot of fun that night. So I'm glad that you finally got to see him. What's good for me is now this trailer for this movie came out a while back. The movie is called The Disaster Artist. It features Seth Rogen and James Franco and his brother, James Franco's brother as well in that movie. Now, The Disaster Artist, it's a whole package deal here. The Disaster Artist is based on a book by the same name. That book is by a man named Greg Sestero. Greg Sestero was a co-star in a movie called The Room, written and directed, produced by a man named Tommy Wiseau. The Room, for those of you who have not seen that, is labeled the Citizen Kane of terrible movies. It is one of the worst movies I've ever seen, but it is one of the best movies I've ever seen. It is hilarious in every aspect, and it's not meant to be hilarious. My wife and I love bad movies. We love to sit and watch them. We love to laugh at them that are not meant to be funny, but we love it. The Room is amazing. It's a tour de force of terrible. So this movie was made years ago. This guy, Greg Sestero, wrote a book about how terrible it was working on that movie. How he was promised it would be this next big hit and everything, how Tommy Wiseau, the guy who created it, is just an insane person. The book is hilarious. It's a New York Times bestseller. It is so funny. So Seth Rogen and James Franco are making a movie about the making of that movie. I would highly suggest checking it out. It was a teaser trailer that dropped for it. It's about 2 minutes long. It's on YouTube. It is hilarious. But you have to do yourself a favor. Sit down and watch The Room by Tommy Wiseau. It is one of the funniest things you will ever watch. And it's a movie that you shouldn't want to watch it that many times, but you just always go back to it. It's so good. It's so funny. I would highly recommend the book as well, The Disaster Artist. And I just simply cannot wait for this movie. They released it at Sundance Film Festival, and people are saying that it is an unbelievable Oscar-worthy performance by James Franco as Tommy Wiseau. So I'm very excited for that, and that is what's good with me. Let's end the show with a segment that we end with almost every show with. It's our bold prediction for this upcoming week. Ian, what is your bold prediction?
My bold prediction for the upcoming week is Monday night, the Browns will move to 2-0 on their journey to raising that Lombardi trophy this year.
Very nice, hopefully. My bold prediction for this upcoming week is that Kyrie Irving will be traded sometime this week. I think the Spurs are going to be the front runner. I don't know for whom, but that is my bold prediction, that Kyrie Irving will be traded sometime this week. And with that, that will do it for this week's episode of the Ohio Sports Radio Show, episode number 25. Thank you to everyone who continues to support the show and our website. Speaking of our website, make sure you check it out, ohsportsradio.com. With the podcast, you can find it on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play Music. Just search Ohio Sports Radio in your search bar. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review it. Please give us a 5-star rating. It will really help us out. And make sure you leave us a little review as well. The best reviews that we see we'll actually read in a segment that we're going to do on the podcast. But thank you to everyone. Make sure you give us a like on Facebook, the Ohio Sports Radio Show page. Always have a lot of cool discussions on there. So for anyone who hasn't joined the group yet, make sure you do. Follow us on Twitter at Ohio Sports Radio. And we'll see you guys next week. Ian, do you have anything to add?
We're getting into the thick of it, brother. Ohio State's just around the corner. NFL is getting ready to start. The Reds, maybe they got one last 30-0 run on them to get into the playoffs. I doubt it. Let's keep this going. Ohio Sports Radio for life.
Yes, sir. And one last thing, Ian. Since football is back, it wouldn't be official without me saying, Hoo Day, Ian. Hoo Day. And with that, we will see you guys next week with episode number 26 of the Ohio Sports Radio Show.